We actually have a call tonight. We have JW is giving us a call about a rear-end automobile collision. JW, go ahead with your question.
Okay. Hey, I was rear-ended and driving a dually with an equipment trailer, and the party that rear-ended me was ticketed and all. But what my question is their insurance company is only paying out, they say that he has a max of $10,000, but I've got more damage than that. Is there anything I can do about that?
You know, JW, that's another very common occurrence that we run into in our practice when people are involved in wrecks. I talked about the property damage liability coverage at the beginning of the show and how Florida requires property damage liability, but the minimum amount required under Florida law is $10,000. And so most people, you know, if somebody goes in and says, I just need, you know, whatever insurance I need in order to be legal, then what they're getting is a basic property damage PIP policy, which is not really going to provide much of a benefit to anybody. Because especially if it's a newer vehicle, or gosh, look at used car prices and new car prices these days, $10,000 doesn't even come close to covering things, especially in a situation with a total loss. But you know, Lance, you know, they're offering $10,000 obviously because JW's damage is worth way more than that. So the insurance company is actually doing the right thing by saying, here's all of our money. Sure. But what are his options? I mean, does he have insurance they could step in? Could he reject the offer and just say, look, you're going to have to pay me out of pocket for everything above your $10,000? What are his options?
Well, I think that the most straightforward solution would be to check with your own insurance company to see if you carry collision coverage. If you do, then hopefully that would pick up and pay all of the damages that you've suffered. Now, if your insurance company does end up paying out for your damages, then they're going to go back to the at-fault party's insurance company and try to recoup their money at that point. But if you don't carry that collision coverage, then really your only option, if you're trying to make a complete recovery, would probably be to go after the person who was at fault personally. Whether they have the assets to make that feasible, that is most often the issue, and we run into that same thing in our personal injury cases as well. It's not just a property damage issue. We often run into a situation where the damages our clients have suffered far exceed whatever insurance coverage the at-fault driver has. You can also, you know, make sure that they are disclosing all of the insurance to you. It could be that the person was driving on a mission for somebody else, and there's somebody else who might be responsible. There may be other insurance coverage there. So those are all things that you'd want to look into. The insurance companies, we would often send affidavits to the at-fault party to have them fill out to make sure that they're not on the job and maybe their employers should be responsible, or there's not other insurance policies that would be in play that would help us cover those damages. That's the types of things we'd look into. Yeah,
that's great advice, Lance. JW, I hope you're able to get some remedy there to your situation. It's very unfortunate, but honestly, for everybody that's viewing out there, you know, take a look at Florida's minimum requirements for insurance. Pull your policy out, take a look at it. I think you're probably going to find, especially when you compare our state to other states, we are woefully lacking in the types of coverage that should be out there. We're the only state in the country that I can think of that doesn't require bodily injury liability in coverage. So think of property damage liability, pay for somebody else's car if you damage it. Well, what if you hurt somebody else? Florida doesn't even require you to have bodily injury liability coverage, and we're the only state in the nation that does that. You know, the only way that's going to get changed is by talking to your state legislatures and trying to get them to change the law. They actually had a law that made it through a session last year that was vetoed for other reasons. But you know, I think we really need to step it up in this state and get coverage that brings everybody in line and actually can provide some relief for people who do get injured, who do have damage to their vehicle, and they're not left holding the bag like JW.
Yeah, and I think that's been a prime mover in Tallahassee for the past few years, or at least 5 or 6 years, is trying to get mandatory bodily injury liability coverage in place and at a sufficient enough amount to cover most claims. It's not going to we're never going to mandate that you have enough insurance to cover all claims that might be made, but at least to get a relatively high minimum so that most claims could have enough coverage to pay all the damages that someone might cause if they're negligent.
Right, right. And I think our local our elected officials have been in favor of that. So hopefully they'll continue that fight and give some relief to the citizens of the state.